Back when the Switch first launched, I picked up a Pro Controller and have stuck with the same one for the past 8 years. It's pretty beat up, and at this point, I've replaced half the parts in it. I'm going for sort of a Pro Controller of Theseus sort of thing. So when Nyxi offered me a review unit of their Warrior controller, I wasn't going to turn it down. That being said, I'm also the right age to be very skeptical of third-party controllers. I am the second youngest of 5 children, and the Mad Catz controller trauma does not go away easily. The Warrior is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, along with PC, Android, iOS, and can also be used on GameCube and Wii with the included wireless dongle, akin to Nintendo's Wavebird. I assume it will also work on Switch 2, given its backwards compatibility with Switch 1 controllers, but I can't be 100% sure just yet. But let's get the obvious out of the way first. The Warrior is designed to mimic the layout of Nintendo's GameCube controller, while adding some of its own improvements. Most iconically, we get the large central A button, orbited by the B button, and the bean-like X and Y buttons. While I'm not the type to insist that Super Smash Bros. Only be played on a GameCube controller, I do have a deep affinity for this button layout. Now that being said, just like using a GameCube controller adapter on your Switch, adjusting to the shuffled button placement, especially for X and Y, takes some effort. The buttons themselves are mechanical, so rather than pressing a rubber pad onto a board, you're actually clicking a small mechanical switch. This makes the buttons extremely responsive, but it also means they're quite loud compared to a standard controller. They're very satisfying, but the clicking may annoy some. This goes for the D-pad as well, which I actually found more loud and annoying than the face buttons. Rolling your thumb around the D-pad sounds like you're grinding pepper, and in my opinion, the D-pad doesn't perform particularly well in general. It's probably still a step up from the official Switch Pro controller, but I'd say it's a step down from the D-pad on, say, the Xbox Series controller. The analog sticks are both Hall effect joysticks, which should reduce long-term risk of drifting. Though on that topic, I will note that I did need to recalibrate both sticks right out of the box. Both were zeroed a little low on the Y-axis. I had to do this via the controller's internal calibration settings, not on my Switch. The included documentation doesn't really cover this, so I had to look online for how to do it. The process ultimately wasn't particularly difficult, but it's worth noting if you do get the controller and it isn't behaving precisely as it should. Beyond that, both sticks performed well. They're perhaps a little loose for my taste, reminding me a bit of recent PlayStation controllers, but not bad by any means. The triggers are analog rather than digital, and while that doesn't make a huge difference for the Switch, I did find it nice for PC, and of course it's crucial if you're using the controller for the GameCube. They have 2 different trigger distance settings adjusted by a toggle on the controller. While playing on Switch, I do highly recommend swapping them to the shorter trigger distance to more closely replicate the feel of the Switch's digital triggers. And our last feature for the back of the controller is 2 customizable back buttons, along with a turbo button. I don't use the turbo button because I'm a professional, but I am a big fan of back buttons on controllers. Both are easily programmable to the buttons of your choice. I generally map these to the bumpers so that my pointer fingers can rest on the trigger and never have to move. My one complaint here is that the exact position of these back buttons feels a little awkward. They're a bit too low and wide, so my hand never naturally landed on them. Granted, this may entirely come down to the exact proportions of your hands, but the actual buttons themselves worked well. I'll also highlight that the back button, along with the analog sticks, come with optionally swappable parts, allowing you to customize the controller to some degree. For example, right out of the box, that right C-stick is the smaller GameCube-style C-stick, but it also comes with a full-size C-stick if you want it to feel a bit more like a modern controller, which I personally did, though I appreciate that it's still yellow. Overall, the Nyxi Warrior is a solidly built controller that I suspect will indeed become my go-to for the swan song of the Switch, and even more so for my PC, which I've actually been using it on a lot. Time will tell if I carry it forward onto the Switch 2 as well. It isn't my favorite modern controller, but I would certainly rank it higher than Nintendo's official Switch Pro controller. I also suspect that it will last much longer. But one final note, and perhaps the most important feature, it can wake the Switch up from sleep mode, which most third-party Switch controllers can't do, so that alone may be a pretty significant selling point for some. But that's all I've got for today. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to Nintendo World Report TV, and check out NintendoWorldReport.com for a whole lot more. My name is John Reardon, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. This video is made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.